Hey, I'm Nick.
And I'm Makaila.
Welcome to Second Draft Family, a podcast where two millennials talk about raising their blended family while trying not to fuck up their kids in the process. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time, I guess, if you thought jumping in on episode 7 was the right spot.
They said those first four are shit. This sounds interesting.
Right. This week, we are going to be talking about empty nesting, which we're not quite to yet, but the kids are teens and tweens. The youngest just about to turn 10 here. Just as talking about them becoming adults and what, our thoughts and hopes for that part of their lives are.
Yeah, and just, it being fast approaching because I feel like last year we had a bunch of middle schoolers and now like everyone's getting older. What the fuck?
Right. Glasses starts high school next year
Yes.
and has already picked out classes, I think.
Yeah. And is talking about, possible careers that they'll have as an adult. And it's like when they're 6, that's adorable. When they're almost 14, like, you're gonna make me cry. How did you get to be so big?
Yeah, when I was 6, I wanted to be a milkman, but only chocolate milk, and I could fly. And when I was a kid, that was already an obsolete career. So, like, there weren't milkmen in the 90s anyway, so I don't know why I thought that was the dream job. I forget when exactly that died, probably, when I was younger than Glass's age, but anyway.
To be a veterinarian, thanks for asking.
See, but that's an actual real career. That's adorable.
Yes, but then I turned 11 and realized how much school you have to actually do to be a veterinarian. So that dream died. And I still wanted to be like, I think that was literally from the time of 11 to graduating that I either wanted to be in the film industry or I wanted to be a writer. So that was it.
Those were at least tangible goals.
Yes, no, there was no, I'm gonna live on the moon.
Right. But yeah, Glasses is picking out high school classes. Tuna is gonna be in their junior year next year. Um uh, you know, Picking out classes and going to career night with you at the
Yeah,
school,
college fairs and shit. Like,
probably wanting to tour college campuses over the summer and stuff.
yeah.
It's even to the point where, like, Yorkie's thinking about that too, not much further behind.
Yeah, no, really, when you think about it, like, Yorkie being in 6th grade, about to be in 7th grade, like, that is going to go by like lightning. It already is. It's like you think it's so far away, but it is truly like right there that like we are going to have adult children. I think that's hitting. We're not teenagers anymore. When the fuck did that happen?
Right. So, because mentally, I still feel the same way when I think about myself that I did even when I was in my 20s. And it's like, nah,
Yeah.
I am approaching 40 a lot faster than I want to be.
How has it gone by this quick? But also, can it go a little quicker?
Well, I have had the thought almost once a week since the pandemic. And of course, the pandemic was 6 years ago. So no one was even in middle school yet. But just some of those days where everyone's acting up. And I'm like, this is never going to end. I still have years and years and years left. And it's less years, but like Poopsie is about to turn 10. So it's still 8 years for them,
Yeah.
but yeah, the other's not so much. That
Yeah.
that is kinda getting to the end.
And I think, to be fair, part of the struggle with parenting for ourselves specifically, I will not speak for other parents maybe, but there are so many of them. Like, we did it to ourselves. But, like, there's fucking kids everywhere. When you just have one or two, I feel like you're able to bask in your life a little bit more. Whereas when all of the kids are playing a fucking shooter game together, and it's like, "Oh my god, bro! Oh my god! Oh my god!" Or they're like screeching because they're about to get shot, and it's like, can you not? It's like, I
Well,
think those are the moments where it's like, you know, I would actually be okay with them moving out.
I'm excited to not have to listen to that because whenever they're playing one of those games, right?
Yeah.
Whenever someone's getting shot, it's not just, "Hey, they're on me." It's on me, on me, on me, on me. It's like, why do you have to say it 3 to 4 times?
So that everyone knows.
Why but but they hear you the first time. Why? I it makes me so irrationally angry because they get
Yeah.
loud and obnoxious about it. But anyway, that's one of the times I'm like, "Hey, not too much longer."
Right. It really is that constant state of one day you are not going to live here and I am going to miss you, but like maybe I won't miss you as much as I think I will.
There will be certain things you don't miss, and there will be certain things you do.
Yes. And like, I don't know, maybe this is just like me having a dark sense of humor because obviously I love our dogs, but I I feel like with Sonic especially because he is our oldest dog
Yes.
and just like knowing how devastating the death of a pet is, as I think about the kids getting older, I also think about him getting older, and I'm like, "Look, man, like, I love you, and I am going to cry like a baby when you do die, but, like, it's gotta be either next year or you gotta hang on for the next 3 years." Like, you
Please do not die when Tuna's graduating. Yeah,
right.
Sonic
Like,
is
please
turning
don't
10.
ruin his senior year.
Yeah. Sonic is turning 10, and he is just I don't know, I feel like he could fall apart at any minute, like, he could go 6 months or 6 years, and
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised either way.
And I know someone out there is like, "10's not old." I can promise you he is a senior dog and
Yes.
he will not be with us in the next 5 years. Like that is not he will be old as shit at that point. Like based
His
on his breed, based on his health.
right,
Like we're
his
not
size
being
and
like, "Oh, he's, he's 10" and you guys are like, still a puppy." Like it's not.
yeah, his size and breed mixes all have the life expectancy of 10 to 12 years. Like, we we know we're in those golden years.
Yes. So, yes, that is also something that is on my mind. I don't know if that's like very dark, but it's just something that occasionally crosses my mind.
Right, it's just like, "Oh, boy, you gotta time this really well." Sonic's also a bulldog and kind of an asshole, so, like, he'd also do it at the worst time. Not on
Just
purpose,
to
but, like,
spite us.
no, I don't think that, but he does have really bad sense of
Anyway,
this isn't about the dog.
so yeah, I think like them getting older, the kids, obviously, you want them, and I say this just as a blanket statement. I think most parents want their kids to visit them as adults. Like you
Yeah.
I would think it would not be normal to want your kids out at 18 and to never see them again or to see them once a year. I would think that that would not be the norm.
No, I feel like that would have to be that there was a really bad relationship there, like, something went wrong
Yeah,
to want your kids out and then just not care if you ever saw them again.
right. So,
So when we were in the earlier parts of like living together and figuring out this like blended parenting thing, there were a lot of conversations where we didn't agree with how the other person was handling things. One of the things you would bring up was that, you didn't want to create an environment. Well, neither of us did, of course. I'm not saying I do want to create an environment. Neither of us want to create an environment where the kids become adults and they just want to leave so that they never have to see us again.
yes. Well, and yeah, part of that is based on my own experiences. Like, I never want our kids to feel that way.
Right.
Like for me, and just to give a little backstory, I guess, my parents, and I will say like my parents, like my dad and my well, I guess I still consider her my stepmom. They separated my senior year, and I actually ended up living with her. Like my dad just fucked off. He left to go live with his girlfriend and did not take me with him. So like I stayed
Which
with
is so
her.
that's so messed up, like, he had the obligation to you, not your stepmom after their marriage ended.
Right. And well, and the whole thing was always like, well, it's your senior year. You'd have to start at a new school. And I'm like, I really feel like just fucking leaving and never coming back to see if I wanted to explore other opportunities. Like, that was fucked. But yes, I do agree with you. So, anyway, so I ended up living primarily with my stepmom. And I briefly went to a university, so I was living there, and I ended up getting into an argument with her over the stupidest fucking reason because I had a boyfriend who turned into my now ex-husband, and she did not want to drive down to my university with him. And so words were exchanged, and we did not have a relationship for a very long time after that. So
Right.
when I left college, I had nowhere to go. And this is not like, oh, I graduated and like I'm an adult now. Like I was there for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. Maybe a little longer, but definitely not 2 months. And I was living on various couches for my friends. They were kind of taking turns housing me.
Right.
And, I briefly lived with this other family that I knew. And then I lived with my aunt until I got married. And as a reminder to our listeners, I got married 2 days before I turned 19. And I will always maintain that, like, part of the reason I think I got married so early and so quickly was because I wanted to have this sense of like family. Like I wanted to feel like I belonged somewhere. And so it's like I don't want to do that to our kids. I don't want them to feel like they don't have anywhere to go and put themselves in these like bad positions or make bad decisions because they didn't have us to support them.
Well, all that to say that there's been times where we've clashed over figuring out our parenting style and our discipline style because your dad's was incredibly harsh,
Mhm.
overly harsh. Can I say abusive or should I not?
It's the truth. I don't see why not.
Right. Like
Like
abusive.
he can argue that he wasn't, that's fine, but from my perspective and my lived experience, yes, he was abusive.
Right, and not that either of us have ever been abusive, but, like, to the point where, we you don't want them to be so miserable that they leave and never come back because from all of this stuff, you still don't have a relationship with your dad.
Right, yeah, no, and there's been, times where I have tried to repair that relationship, but I think because the groundwork wasn't laid when I was actually a teenager, it was a lot harder to rectify that situation with me as an adult, and he never wanted to put in the work to get us to a point that we could have like a functional relationship as a father. So for me, I have no desire to have a relationship with him because of all of these things that happened.
So that's always and granted, no one's goal is to ever screw up their kids, or at least I don't think, unless you're like watching Matilda or some shit. But obviously, it was the sort of thing we wanted to get on the same page because not being on the same page can also be damaging to kids and make it be the sort of thing where it's like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah. Well, like I think that's the whole point is we don't want us to be the reason, something that we did to be the reason that we never see our kids again.
Right. There have, like within the last few months, Tuna is 16 and Tuna is getting very interested in politics. And like any 16-year-old who is learning just the surface level stuff and getting information from sometimes not very credible sources, they don't always have the most well formed out opinion. But they're also very stubborn. So there have been arguments and to the point where Tuna has been like, "You guys, we we've called them out on like, "Hey, like you wanna talk about this stuff, but we don't agree with the things you're saying, and I'm trying to, explain why, and you're just like, "You don't support me. When I am an adult, you're never gonna see me again. I am getting out of here. I can't stand it here." And teenagers will say shit like that, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
there's a whole reason there's the stereotype of the teenager saying, "I hate you," and slamming the door in your face because they absolutely fucking do it.
Yeah. I think, like, we can say politics all day, and that's fine and well. I think it's more of like it's the same issue I kind of had with my dad as a teenager, whereas, like, it's not necessarily politics, it's human rights. And we can either set a boundary or we don't. And then that's where sort of like that relationship can start to tear. And so I think
Yeah.
like we've been very adamant about wanting to set that boundary. Like, look, you feel how you feel, and we don't agree with that. But if that is truly how you feel, then we would rather you, not get your facts from a bunch of misinformation. I don't know, maybe I'm getting like too into this, but like that really is the core of it. Is it's not factually true. And so we try to set the boundary of like, you feel how you feel and you can feel those things, but we're not going to talk about them in this house.
Right? We're not gonna tolerate, viewpoints that are
Hurtful.
hurtful and disrespectful and discriminatory. And as Tuna tries to figure out their own political identity, being a 16-year-old, they're not at an age where I can tell them, well, you can't believe that, you're wrong. Because any teenager is going to dig their heels in and be like, well, I'm going to believe it harder. And
Well,
that's something that they've done and have threatened it. And they have walked that back and like apologized and have become civil, but it is something we've dealt with.
yeah.
It's not what you want, and at that point, it becomes, you want them to visit, but they still might not, and it might not be because you've done something wrong, it's just because you don't see eye to eye.
Right. And I think like the biggest point there for me personally is just that like they were ever to actually decide like, well, I believe this and you don't, therefore like I don't want a relationship with you, that would be their decision. We clearly don't agree and there's not a boundary of respect there to not have these conversations. I think if you are a parent and you make a decision not to talk to your child, like that had to have been incredibly difficult. But I do think a lot of parents need to understand that, like, more often than not, there's of course going to be those rare circumstances where you have the occasional, like, spoiled child who just doesn't want to deal with it, but, or doesn't want to be held accountable. However, for the vast majority of people, and I'm saying the other half of that would be an incredibly small, small, small percentage. For the vast majority of people, you don't just cut off your parents for shits and giggles. Like that could probably be the point as a parent that you have to do like deep self-reflection of like, what did I do that this human that I actually raised wants nothing to do with me? Like where did I make a mistake? That is like some deep reflection as an adult. So that for
Short
me,
of them joining a cult, which, like, forbids that sort of outside contact.
right? Like that for me is like I think why I get so hyper vigilant about certain things because like I said, like I never want to be the reason.
Right, we wanna have a relationship with the kids for the rest of our lives and theirs for as long as we're alive for it.
Right.
We don't want them to ever feel like they have to cut us out.
Yes.
Conversely, there's, sometimes the fear that, like, they never leave.
Yes. And this is I think where we deviate the most.
Yeah, neither of us are, of course, once you turn 18, you gotta get out of the house, like, your
Right.
birthday present's an eviction notice. No, that's not neither of us are that, but, there's kind of always been, like, there's 4 of them. there's a real possibility, what if one of them tries to pull the living in our basement until 40 bullshit.
Right, and I think, like, that for me is always the difference because I'm like, at some point, they're adults, and even if they live in the house, I'm not raising them at that point. Like, they are completely, like, independent, short of sharing a home, obviously, but I don't have to worry about things like curfews or, the things that you have to worry about with a child. I can go on a vacation with my husband and I don't have to find a babysitter. Like, so that for
Right.
me is why I think I have always sort of respected other cultures in the way that they view your children growing up. Like this whole like extended family sort of thing. I have always respected that. And I think I will always be more involved as a parent than my parents were involved with me. And I don't mean that in like a making decisions for them sort of way, but like I feel like I would not be like, why are you still here? Unless they were 30 and had a part-time job and we're still living in the basement and it's like what are you doing? Like you're an adult. You need to you you ideally went to trade school or college or got some sort of certification after high school so that you can have like a career. You are not contributing. Your area, your bedroom, the basement, whatever the fuck they're living in is a disaster. You're spending your afternoons playing video games. You smell like shit. Like, do we need to have a conversation? Like, are you depressed? Like, at that point, that's when I'm like, what are you still doing here? Like, why do you still live with us?
So is that the cutoff age for you, 30 and smelling like poop and only working part-time?
No, I think honestly, I would not have a problem with sharing a house with the kids unless it was like in our current house, right? Them
That wouldn't
living here
work.
into adulthood does not work. Are you going to be 35 and still having a bunk bed with your younger sibling?
No.
That does not work. You cannot be here as an adult. It does not make logical sense. You could still have this house while you're going to college. If they're going to like a doctor program or something like that and they need a room for when they're not in college, like you can still have that. That is still available to you. But like our current house, what I'm saying does not make logical sense. If we are able to move like we were planning to, ideally, I don't necessarily have a cutoff age, but I do have boundaries and I do have circumstances of like if you are working full time and you are like in your 30s, this is not like living with mom and dad. Like at that point we are your roommates and like this is partly your responsibility. And like if that does not get fulfilled, you are welcome to not live here anymore.
Right, you're 30 working full-time, you're paying rent.
Right. But like the people that I think bother me as parents are the ones where it's like their children are still freshly out of high school or have got accepted into university and it's like, oh, I'm going to turn their room into my gym. And it's like they're still so young. Like anything could happen. And I can't imagine, well, actually, I can. I can't imagine leaving home or getting kicked out and you literally have nothing if you lose your job, if you get a divorce, if there's some monumental disaster in your life, and your parents have said definitively, you're an adult, you don't live with us anymore. That's not how this is going to happen. Like, I have lived and I have seen what that, like, consequence is. That will not be our kids. Like, it will not. But like you said, like, there has to be a cutoff. And I don't necessarily know for me that it's an age. I think it's more of like boundary thing.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I mean, we had your story of getting kicked out, by your stepmom
Yes.
and your dad. My story is not nearly as bad, but like I was 22 and I had just finished college and Tuna I think a year old or maybe a little less or maybe just slightly more. They were not very old. And as soon as I think a week after graduation, and I was looking for jobs, but I was still working full time. My parents were in a position where my older sister had my nephew when she had come home for some reasons I'm not going to get into, and she had my nephew a few months before Tuna was born, and my parents had to house my sister and my nephew for a period of time. And because I was the more responsible child, it was okay, you've graduated, you're working, we're going to find you an apartment and you're getting out of here. They and it was not mean, but they helped me. They looked at apartments with me. They found something close so that if I needed help, they were like 2 miles away. So it wasn't like this, get out, we don't want to talk to you again. But it was like, we are old, you're all adults now. It's bad enough that, your sister and your nephew are here. You and Tuna part-time are not going to be here too, and you're in a better position to move out, so we're going to get you out. And I think I kind of am along the same lines. And now like every program and schooling for said programs different. Like I know if you want to be a doctor, you're in school for a long time. But like if any of the kids are 27 ish, like not like 27 is a hard number, but it's a semi hard number.
Yes.
Like it's a pudding solid number, maybe jello solid. If they're 27 and they're done with college and they're working full time, it's like you have no reason to still be here. Get out.
That's like a failure to launch.
Right. It's like what possible, and granted housing costs are insane, but it's like you have at least one or two friends who you won't murder each other living together. I hope. Get out.
Right. And it's like,
Why are you still here?
you might have to like rent a shitty first apartment that you don't necessarily want to be in long term, and that's fine. But still, you got to do something. Or for me, it'd be like, yeah, if they were in their late 20s and like we'll say glasses for example, if glasses gap year turns into like a gap decade, it's like what what you doing? What we got to make a plan. You're 27. There has to be something. Like we're a big kid now. We
If
gotta.
glasses' quote unquote gap year that they've talked about goes over 366 days, they are getting sat down like, nope, year's up. What are you doing? Not just gonna sit here and play with Rubik's cubes. Like, nah. What are you
Yeah.
doing? What's the real plan?
And I think for me too, and maybe this sounds like too idyllic or like too, Makaila, that's not reality. And that's fine. But like, I feel like for me personally, and I know you probably can relate to this, in your 20s, because we both had children in our 20s. Like, I was married and I had one child and I was pregnant with a second. You had a child. And then, by the time I was 24, which is when most people have finished up college and have just entered the workforce, I had 3 kids under the age of 4. So I feel like your 20s really are supposed to be about discovering yourself and figuring out what you want the rest of your life to look like. And sometimes, like, yes, still making mistakes because you are, I mean, up until they say like what, 25, your brain is still not fully developed.
Right.
So like you're gonna do stupid things. You're gonna make bad decisions. Like that is going to happen. I always want our kids to feel like there's some sort of safety net. Not a safety bubble, but like a
Important
safety net.
difference.
Like if you make a mistake, mom and dad are here. We will help you to the best of our ability to not let this, dictate the next 20 years of your life.
Yeah, like if they're 27 and working, it's like, yeah, you shouldn't be here. But like conversely,
You
if
shouldn't be
they're
here.
okay, you know what I mean. But like if they're, let's say that happens and then at 31 they get a divorce and they need to stay at the house for a year to get back on their feet, that's different. Like okay,
Absolutely.
yeah, like
Yeah, and
life
I'm not gonna
happens and
tell them that they're ruining my tranquility, as my dad told me when he kicked me out for the second time.
I would like to ruin your dad's face. So Anyway,
Anyway, but yeah, like I always get such a ick when it's like people are adults and they don't have good relationships with their parents, and the parents make it seem like, well, they were a difficult kid. And I feel like every teenager is difficult to a certain extent. And I know, and trust me, we both know that sometimes
I was
teenagers
great.
are more difficult than others.
I was great. I was not a problem at all. My
I
parents will
didn't mean
back me
us
up.
specifically. I just meant like some teenagers are more difficult than others. And
Right.
like I always feel that as an adult, your relationship with your parent is only supposed to increase. Like it changes, right? Like you can
Yeah.
be more friendly with your parents as an adult. You can talk about things with your parent as an adult that you maybe would have never talked to them about as a teenager because you were like, privacy. I don't want to like talk to you about this. And that can happen. So it always for me, I don't know, like it bothers me that there are adults out there who want nothing to do with their adult children. Like, well, they're 18, they're 20, they're 30, like they're not my problem anymore.
I maybe those are the people who just had kids because they thought they had to, like because society dictated that they must.
Yeah, I don't know, but I still feel like I was one of those people that never wanted kids, and even still, like, will always want them in my life. I feel like, I don't know. I can't relate.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna be all from us on this episode. This one I think is gonna be a little longer. We'll see after I edit it. I feel like this was one of the longer ones. That's all right.
We had a lot to say. That's fine. Some episodes will be like that.
Yeah. Next week we're gonna talk about prioritizing our marriage amidst all these four hellions. Because that can be hard to do, and that's hard for a lot of parents, no matter how many kids you're dealing with.
Yeah, and I think too, especially being like that we're a blended family, I think that because for both of us, we entered this with kids, it's very hard to get out of that mindset of like, it's not just you and your child anymore.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And making time for that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Well, we will catch you next week, same bat time, same bat channel.
Bye. Well, that was something. If you liked what you heard, please tell your friends and follow our social media. We're at Second Draft Family on TikTok, Insta, and Facebook, and at Second Draft Fam Pod on Blue Sky. See you next time. Bye.